Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Coach Pablo Ortiz from Saginaw Valley State. Welcome, Coach.
Hey, thank you. Thank you.
Hopefully, you're staying warm there up in Michigan. Got that cold snap coming through there.
Yeah, man, it snowed. It was snowing yesterday and then a little chilly today, but nothing too bad,
Oh,
thankfully.
good. Well, good. Well, let's talk a little bit about the women's program you have there and how you're. Let's start with recruiting, I guess, how you're bringing kids in. So, when is it that you guys just wrapped up your season? So, are you really focusing on the 23 class right now, the 24 class? When do you guys really start talking to players and focusing on that?
Right. So maybe for the women's game, you hear a lot of mixed reviews about how a lot of times they're 2 years ahead, 1 year ahead. Um, from my experience, though, we're still in the 2023 class, and I do get a lot of emails from 2024s, and a lot of times we look at them, we consider them, we push it back more so for the spring because the main priority right now is closing that 2023 class.
Okay. Now, I mean, looking at your roster, obviously you're heavy Michigan focus, but
Mhm.
what are some of the tournaments and places that you kind of have on a must visit basis that you really use to scout players?
Right. So Michigan's got a really good pool for players. Um, maybe it sounds a bit unfair to say, but unless it's a GA or an ECNL tournament per se or game, um, unless we happen to be in that area for whatever reason, it's usually those are the games we go watch. If it's not an ECNL or a GA game, a lot of times it requires an email from the player, and then we look at her stuff and we're interested, and then we're like, okay, let's bring her on campus because we could give trials into Division Two, or a really good recommendation from a coach. So um, I'm the one who does more of the, I guess, not really. That'd be unfair to say. For anything outside of Michigan, I'm the one who's done more so of that. So I go to Canada a lot to take a look at players, and then if I get any recommendations, I'll look in Canada. And then I have friends around the U.S. that I'm consistently asking, like, hey, do you have anyone that you think we should consider? So a lot of it is from recommendation, and a part of it is just being at the right place at the right time if we're there watching.
Yeah. What do you guys do? Do you do camps there at Saginaw Valley, or does your staff work other camps?
Yeah, we do camps. So for the 2024s, it's kind of like so you get recruits and then you almost put them into lists. So you get certain ones that are the ones that everyone's trying to get. So those you don't necessarily send to a camp. You're just trying to get them on campus or trying to get a conversation with them. Then there's other players that you've seen, you've watched, you really like, and then you're like, okay, let's bring them on campus and give them a trial. So they get to go through a day in the life of a player. They get to visit school, try them out. And then there's another set of players that we get recommended or we watch or that they've emailed us with interest, and we're like, okay, come to ID camp. Um, Closest thing to a private combine. So in the pro games, there's private combines where they invite specific set of players to go watch them, and they pick two or three out of that group. So our camps are, in a sense, similar to that, except it's more of an open combine, I guess, with specific players that are invited and told come to our camp so we can watch you specifically.
Okay. Well, whether it's camps or games or wherever you're looking at kids or even the video and emails you're getting, kind of what for you guys is that hierarchy of things you're looking for in a player that's going to make you say, yeah, we want you to be part of our program.
Yeah, that's a great question. Look, man, I get a lot of really, really good players, but a lot of it is context, right? So it's like, what do we need? You know, we have 8 center backs, something around there. So it's like, am I going to look at a center back? And I get a lot of really good center backs, but the second I get a good center back, I'm like, I'm sorry, I just not for 2023. If you're 2024, maybe once we graduate a few, but for 2023, that position per se, that context doesn't work. So first things first is context is what do we need? And then we go to the players, like what can you offer within what we need? So obviously, I guess a lot of training sessions nowadays are small sided. So, and the game's really quick at Division two. So the ability to, for me, the biggest thing is when I recruit players, it's their awareness, especially if I'm recruiting a center mid. So I'll be watching their game. It'll take me 5 minutes at most to see how much they're scanning, how much they're checking their shoulder. They don't even have to touch the ball. Just the way they move, the way they shuffle, the way they look around, you can tell pretty quickly. Uh, is this a player that uh, is actually like is good, like the fundamentals are spot on, or is this a player that might have a lucky game, um, maybe lucky game, but might have a good game that could maybe doesn't have certain fundamentals. So there are things we look at right away for the fundamentals that can take 5 to 10 minutes to figure out. That's the easy side of it, and then as the game goes on, as you're watching, all the other non-trivial things like speed, pace, size, those are also done quickly within 5 minutes. But um, how you perform, like how you perform during 90 minutes, how you perform during 70 minutes, how you perform during 60 minutes. Um, and then you go to meeting them as a person. So then you get on the phone or you talk to a coach and you get to know what they're like. Because honestly, I've been a part of teams that we recruited very talented players, very, very talented players, but the culture wasn't great. They weren't necessarily the greatest people per se. So there's a lot of emphasis on that now. It's can you play soccer? Can you get the fundamentals? And are you a really good person? Not a really good person, but are you a good person? Are you integrous to some degree? Are you willing to try? So that's usually if she passes all the first steps, like I see she has all the fundamentals down. She performed very well in the training session or in the game. Then we get to know her as a person. We go talk to her, take her to eat at the cafeteria, whatever it is, and then those are the tiny little details that you're like, okay, I have another player just as good as you, but who is going to fit in more with the culture of the team?
Makes sense. Well, do you guys look at internationals or the transfer portal at all to help your recruiting?
Yeah, that's okay. So internationals is very tricky. If it was the men's game, uh, definitely look at internationals. For the Americans, are just female Americans are very good in general already. So when you take a look at international, a lot of times you're taking a gamble. Um, so we do consider internationals, and we currently have one international. Last year we had two. We usually have at least 1 to 2. It's just a lot tougher if you're an international for us to actually want you have to be significantly better than the talent pool we have here. Now for the transfer portal, right now we're all transfer portal. So I guess the way we divide our classes are um, you take a few incoming freshmen, regular incoming freshmen, which were not necessarily development players, but you get 4 years out of them, and you're willing to be patient with their development. Whether they're starting or not starting, it's a bit irrelevant. Then when you go to the transfer portal, you're trying to bring in these players that are ready to go or ready to bring in some sort of leadership or ready to essentially they're championship players. So right now we're definitely looking at the transfer portal, and we've been mainly working off the transfer portal without to close the 2023 class. We obviously still look at regular 2023s, but since we already got a few regular 23s, now we're trying to close with transfers
Okay.
or an
Well,
international.
okay. Well, a lot of times, parents, the first question is going to be, okay, well, what's this going to cost me, right? Say the colleges are expensive these days, so I'm
Right.
uh, I'm not going to hold you to any hard numbers here, but can you just give me an overall view of what it looks like from a cost perspective, whether with academic money, athletic money, what kind of scholarships are available? What's it look like if to be a student athlete at SVSU?
SVSU's if it's not the most cost effective, it's top two or top three most cost effective schools in Michigan. It is a state school, so obviously there's in-state tuition and there's out-of-state tuition. The thing that helps us out a lot is that we give even international students and out-of-state students in-state tuition if they come in with 3.0. So we automatically give them something called a red and white scholarship, that brings it down to in-state tuition. I believe in-state tuition, um, so all in is around the low 20,000s with housing, food, and academics. Obviously, tuition increases due to the university policies, whatever it is, they're going to increase it by next year. But yeah, you're looking at that low 20s, out of state and in state. And then there's other trivial things like if you're a 4.0, you automatically qualify for 5,000 off, and you go into a raffle to have your whole tuition covered, just for coming in with a 4.0. And then whatever money we give, let's say worst case scenario, the players at walk-on doesn't have a 4.0 and they want to play on the team, they're looking at around, low 20s. And then if they have other factors such as good grades, and then we give them a certain amount of money, then you start bringing that cost down significantly. You're looking for the most part, at the tens or under 10. A lot of players are under 10 for sure a year, so it's good.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the school, folks who may not be familiar. My wife's famous from Michigan, so I know where it's at least up there in the
Okay,
thumb.
nice. Yeah.
But give me something, I can click around the website, learn a lot about the school, but give me some of the good inside scoop that maybe I'm not going to learn about on the website.
I look, I've always said I myself personally, from personal experience, I've done a lot of traveling, and I've always said it's not so much where you go, it's who you're with, and that includes even your own personal relationship with yourself. So it's a place where you don't have 20,000 students like Michigan State, or 40,000 or 60,000. It's a place where you're right underneath 10,000. So it's mid-size. The classrooms are no bigger than 30 students. So you have a close relationship with your professors. You can talk to them. I've even had lunch with my professors. I've had lunch with um, the vice president. Like it's really easy to have a close relationship with faculty per se, and that really helps the academic side of things. And then on the social side of things, you really get to um, grow friendships or relationships with really close friendships and relationships with your friends, with your peers. So it's under 10,000 students. You're not at a big city. You're not in Chicago and Toronto where you can go out and do a whole lot of things per se, but you are within driving distance of those activities, within 20 minutes to 40 minutes. Um, so obviously what I'm trying to say is those big activities that you can do at big cities, you can still do them here, but there's more emphasis on personal relationships. So there's a lot of really tight friendships that are made at this school, and even players on the team will tell you a lot of the people that are here with you will end up being at your marriage, whether be your groomsmen or your bridesmaids. So it's a tight knit school without being too small, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then on the athletic side of it, I think more so the men's side, why they're so successful is because you don't have a lot of distractions. So we have really, really good facilities. I'd say top of the line facilities for any division, even in the professional game. And so you have the ability to train whenever you want. We have indoor and outdoor, as much as you want. You have full access to doctors and what do you call it? ATs, athletic trainers, bathtubs. Ice baths, gyms, personal gyms, and then rec gyms. So a lot of what happens, especially with the men's side and the women's side, is we recruit soccer junkies that maybe they come in and were overlooked as seniors, but you have the ability to train so much because it's snowing outside and you're not going to drive 40 minutes to go to a mall. So you're just like, let's just go play, or let's go train. So you find that a lot of our players come third or fourth year are both soccer junkies and have had the ability to develop their skills to their utmost potential. So it's, yeah.
That's great. Well, in terms of the academic component, how do players really balance their academics and athletics there? What kind of support systems are in place at SBSU to help them with that?
Yeah, so the school, like I said, because it's so small, first of all, automatically you have a close relationship with your professors. The professors, for the most part, are very understanding of athletics, and they're not maybe as lenient as some other bigger schools, but they're quite lenient. Or there's usually no problem with missing classes and so forth, or giving extensions for assignments. I know my brother and a few friends went to bigger, maybe Ivy League type schools where there's no late assignments, no talking to a professor, none of that. So you do get sort of that help, that automatic help where it's like you can talk to the professor, uh, and they're lenient to some extent. They're understanding to some extent. And then on top of that, there's free tutoring. There's free services for student success offered by the school to all students. Now, is there extra help for athletes? Not necessarily, because the school's not so big, and the free services that are available for every student are just as readily available for athletes as well. But we do have someone in charge that overlooks the athletic department, and if any athlete has any problem, they'll just deal with him, and he'll help them out, sort them out, put them with the right tutor, put them with the right guidance counselor. And we actually, for the women's side, we don't actually have a lot of problems with the academic side of things. For the men's, years ago, it used to be a topic, but it's definitely not a topic anymore.
Yeah, no, that
So
makes
it's gone better.
okay. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the team. Is there a roster size that you guys find ideal that you're trying to hit each year?
Yeah, I mean, I think 25 you're starting to get a little low because of injuries and so forth. 27's almost perfect. 30 you're starting to get high. So we try to keep it below 30, high 25, 20 above 25.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, well, we talk about the size of the roster. What about the size of the staff? How many coaches are there? What role does everybody play? What's that look like?
Yeah, so for the women's side, we have obviously the head coach. I know some schools use an associate head. We just have the head coach, and then we have first assistant, and then almost two other assistants that they have the same role as the first assistant. It's just more so how it's organized. But the first assistant might have a little bit more responsibility to be around all the time, because the other two we have head coach and then three support staff. So there's one first assistant that has to be there most of the time, and then the other two are volunteers. And so the other two are crucial because they're the ones that help set up, let's say, activities, let's say bonding activities. They'll be put on those coaches. They're the ones that are overseeing the drills or even running the drills most of the time. So you have three coaches that mainly work with the players, and then you have a goalie coach. So we have four in total,
Okay.
actively there all the time with the players.
Okay. Well, how would you guys describe your style of coaching as a staff and your team style of play?
Well, this is so this is Chance's first year. So Chance, the head coach, um, as the head coach, he's been here for 7 years. He's been assistant for all those 7 years. And then this is my first year on the women's side. I was on the men's side recruiting mainly last year, and then this is my first year on the women's side as his assistant. So we came in partially working off what the old coach had, which is O'Neill, who's at NIU now, and we're very. I've always say this, like, if you're a player, you don't have to. If you want to stand out, be really good at possession drills. Because we do, obviously we understand there's context for certain players that are not that good at possession drills and so forth. We know that's a factor, but a lot of our drills are rondos and built off the idea of being able to play quick and tight spaces. Because that's sort of the style we try to play. Is play quick, 1-2 touches, the occasional dribble, depending on context, like I said. So the sessions are tailored around that possession, change of tempo, quick, fast, quick, fast. Now the GLIAC, the league itself, is more of a physical league where you have certain teams that are a lot more direct. So like I said before, context matters. Whereas if we're playing against Northern Michigan, who's a very direct team where the ball goes out every other play for a throw in, you can try to play, and it works sometimes, but sometimes you do end up going long. But it usually doesn't go too well against them because they're the best at going back and forth. So it depends the game, but we do try to stick to our possessive type 3-5-2 or 4-4-2 or 4-3-3 occasionally.
Okay. Well, in terms of technology, do you guys use video a lot? Do you have the GPS stuff, or what do you guys use any sort of technology in your training and or games?
No, we haven't. We actually aren't that advanced technologically wise. We don't have GPS for that. Whether we're gonna get some, I don't think we're gonna invest in anytime soon. We could, but it's not something we want to put in our budget per se right now. We obviously do film every game. I know some schools don't film every game, and we do stream every game. The school has a partnership with Flow Sports, so there's stream through Flow Sports, and then we do our own VO filming as well. So we, just like almost any program I'd imagine, we have a film day where we break down film before we play our opponent. We analyze it. That's part of the staff's job, is everyone's got to watch it and then break it down. So we're still more so on the basics of watching film, breaking down film. We haven't really gone into any GPS, or I don't even know what else is new. But yeah.
Okay. Well, we've talked about a lot of different things here, covered a lot of ground, but I always like to end with the same thing, and that's what didn't we cover? What else should we have talked about that we didn't? Whether that's about recruiting, the school, soccer, anything else. I kind of leave you with the last word.
Ooh, that I can think of. I guess if you're a student athlete in high school, um, it sounds really cliche, but you really can't get discouraged ever, because it is the right place, the right time. And I know for myself and many other players on the team, were recruited quite late in the process. So I know a lot of players of 2023, especially right now, are starting to get stressed, and it's like, oh well, we're starting to enter springtime and there's not a whole lot of money left, and so forth. But anything can happen, like tomorrow one of our players can leave, and then we're like, okay, now we need a striker. And that's not just for us, it happens for every school. It's almost guaranteed that someone will quit, something will stop happen to someone, or a recruit will pull out, someone that signed already. So as cliche as it sounds, you really, if you're a 2023, you got to keep going all the way, and that includes all the way up until June. We've brought in players 1 week before preseason. When I was here as a freshman playing many years ago, we brought one player in like 2 weeks into preseason. So like, that's what I mean. It can happen at any time. Just got to keep training, and hopefully it works out. But you got to have faith that it'll work out.
Yeah, I love it. Well,
Yeah.
Coach, thank you so much for your time. Wish you guys the best of luck moving forward. And if you're in Philly for the convention, swing by. We'll have our Discover College soccer booth there. All right.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Thank you, Coach.
All right.
You don't want to miss the 2023 United Soccer Coaches Convention in Philadelphia from January 11th to the 15th. This convention is the largest gathering of soccer coaches, administrators, and fans in the world. Only at the convention can you attend sessions crafted with your coaching level and desired topics in mind. Presented by world-class educators, our collection of over 200 lecture sessions and field demonstrations will offer every coach something to bring back to their own training sessions. Come learn from Amanda Vandervoort, president of the USL Super League, Anthony Flores, youth technical director of the Philadelphia Union, Becky Burley and Brett Ledbetter of What Drives Winning, Laura Harvey, head coach of OL Reign FC, and Dan Abraham, sports psychologist. More presenters will be announced in the months leading up to the convention. Visit www.unitedsoccercoachesconvention.org to register before the next price increase.